Hi, Aaron Oberholzer here for the C3i Wedge. We're talking 40, 50, and 60-yard shots. We've got a great green behind us here that at Talking Stick Golf Club they've let us use. We appreciate that from those guys, letting us use this wonderful facility at the back of the range. So 40, 50, 60-yard golf shots. It's part of the game that's probably, I'd say, the most difficult for the average amateur, the average 10, 20 handicapper. And you guys are gonna have a lot of these shots because some of you can't reach certain par fours or certain par fives and two for sure. And when you miss hit a shot or your second shot or you have to pitch out from the trees, it's usually the shot that you're gonna leave yourself with is this 40, 50, 60-yard shot to the greens. So I wanna give you guys some tips on how you can play these shots. Now we have set up here, out here you can see the green flag's at 40. The orange flag to the right is at 50, and I'd say call it pinkish chartreuse maybe. That's at 60 yards, all right? So each one is a distance that I think that is difficult, and understanding your swing and what to do with your swings at each distance is important. So let's talk about the basic fundamentals of hitting a shot like this, all right? So the basic fundamentals that I'd like you guys to have, you gotta remember first and foremost that it's still a golf swing, and but it's a miniature golf swing. And this is the hardest part, is understanding the timing with this, and understanding that you're not trying to create speed, you're trying to let the speed happen. Much like you would in a full golf swing, you're trying to let the speed build as you bring the club down to impact. You're not trying to help the club to the ball, all right? And what I mean by that is I see a lot of people on this shot in particular, when they get their ball, everything's good. They get their ball position right, they get middle of the stance to just maybe one ball up from middle of the stance. They're 50-50 to 60-40. I'm okay with 50-50 on this shot. I'd still like to see you guys maybe 55-45 or 60-40. But everything's good at setup. Hands are at the ball, just ahead of the ball. They get the club back to wherever they're, if they use a clock, which is what I recommend people using, a clock system, they get back to that and they go, oh no, I need to create more speed. And then they end up throwing the club at the ball. What that happens is you throw, you break down, you either hit the ball fat, you come up, you hit the ball thin, the ball launches way over the green, or you dump it into a front bunker or dump it short of the green, rather than just letting the club fall onto the ball and maintaining that angle like I've talked about for pitching the ball and so on. It's so important in golf to maintain this angle. How you address the ball, I cannot stress it enough. How you address the ball is pretty much how you want to impact the ball when you're at impact. Address, impact should mimic address. It shouldn't be back here at impact. It shouldn't be way here at impact. It should be right where you put it. So if you put your hands here, that's exactly where they should be when you come to impact, okay? That's gonna be really important for this shot because, once again, creating proper loft, effective loft at the ball, okay? Versus de-lofting the club or adding loft to the club, creating consistent, effective loft at the ball is gonna give you consistent trajectory, which is gonna give you consistent distance control. And distance control is so crucial on this shot. Being right and left, fine. Being short and long, depending on the green, I'd say not good. But you wanna be right and left is fine, but short and long, that's where you can get in trouble because then you're guessing. Well, do I need to hit the next one harder? Do I need to hit the next one softer? With consistent trajectory control and the way you come into the ball consistently each time, that's what's gonna give you the consistent distance control that you need over and over and over again. Okay, so for a 40-yard shot here at the green one, all right, we'll start with that one. How I want you to get into the shot. So a lot of people want to stand at this shot like this. Flat-footed. They kind of square up to it like a regular golf shot. I want you to do something a little different. I want you to almost make this a big chip shot to a certain extent, okay? Open the hips up a little bit. And why I want that is because it's easier for the hips on a shorter shot to get out of the way quicker when they're already slightly open, or open the feet up. So that when you open the feet up, that allows the hips to get around just that much quicker so you can get the club through, okay? If you get too square and stand too square to it, it's harder to move your hips around and it's easier to get the club stuck, bury it in the ground, leave the club face open, way to the right, and then you're guessing on how you have to get to the ball when you try to square up too much. It's a harder shot to hit that way. Open the feet up, okay, which allows you to get the hips out of the way a little bit easier so you can get through the shot more like a normal golf shot. I do this with shots all the way up to sometimes 100 yards, depending on if I'm hitting a full shot or a half shot or a 3/4 shot. So, and these are all 3/4 shots. Okay, so the next thing is now you've got to find what your baseline swing is. What's your baseline swing for a 40-yard shot? Okay, so you've got your stance, 60-40, you set up properly just like you would a normal golf swing. So now what's your baseline swing? That's where the clock comes in. So you want to picture this arc you're on as a clock. Here's 9 o'clock, here's 3 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock. How far, where do you take it to hit it 40 yards? Okay, what's going to be a 40-yard shot for you? All right, now landing at 40 yards is one thing. Landing at 35 yards and letting it roll to 40 yards is a completely other thing. So you have to take that in consideration. How firm is the green? How fast is the green? Soft, so on and so forth. You're going uphill, downhill with the shot. There's a lot of factors involved. So for this shot, you want to make sure that you definitely get the height you need. We don't have a lot of green to work with, so we got to get the ball kind of high in the air fairly quickly, and we've got to get the ball spinning just a little bit to get it to stop, okay? But I'm not going to try to make it spin. I'm going to do it with contact, and I'm going to do it with trajectory to get the ball to stop. So I put the ball a little farther up in my stance because I don't have a lot of green to work with to get the trajectory. My hands at the ball, and 40 yards feels like about right here. Almost 9 o'clock, about 8:30 or so, all right? Sit. Okay, a little too far. So now I've got to adjust. This is all figuring out, being as consistent as you possibly can with the way you get into the shot, okay? Same thing, ball position just slightly up of center, feet open. Woo, lipped it out, there we go. Much better, crisper, spun a little bit more. Okay, so now we figured out that if I go to here, about right there, 8 o'clock, 8:30, and lead and let the hands do what they're supposed to do and let the club fall. It's another thing. Don't try to create the speed. That's what I mean on this shot. A lot of people try to help the ball. Don't help the ball. Let the ball fall. Let the club fall on the ball. One of the biggest problems I also think that people have is they lose their levels on this shot. They take the club back, they come up out of their posture, and they end up sculling it, or they end up hitting it fat. They don't come up enough and correct enough, and they end up sticking it in the ground. One of the biggest things I think with this shot is to maintain your levels, which is it's hard to do, and it takes practice. But the softer the swing, I think the softer the swing and the more you let the club do the work, the more you're going to understand your feel. So if I just drop the club on the ball, if I really try to keep my head still and take the club back, hands nice and low, let the arms hang naturally, okay? Let the arms hang naturally, and then let the club fall, let the club head fall on the back of the ball. All right, I need a little bit more with that one. That one wasn't bad though. That was exactly what I wanted to do. I'm not trying to do anything more. Very light grip pressure, very light grip pressure, no tension, not a lot of tension in my arms at all, okay? Whoop, banged it off the flag again. So you can see that much like my full golf swing, I am staying in posture through the shot. I'm not coming up vertical. I'm staying in posture and allowing my body to rotate. It's a miniature golf swing. You're just trying to get, much like a regular golf swing, you're using your lower body to clear the club and to clear your body to present the club properly to the ball. You're not, it's just a softer, shorter version of your full swing with the same club, all right? One more. All right. Now, there's nothing tricky about once you understand the 40-yard shot, there's nothing tricky at all about a 50 or 60-yard shot. Now you just adjust your clock. So now you just go, okay, well, if 40 is 8:30, is 8:30, maybe 8:45, then 50 has got to be 9 o'clock, 9:15, right? Which is how the logic goes. So 10 yards equals about a half hour, maybe 45 minutes. Depending on the swing, maybe even an hour. It just depends, okay, on what you're trying to do. So now we're going to the orange flag, and my 50-yard swing, I have changed nothing. Changed absolutely nothing. 60-yard shot, I might change something, and we'll get to that when we get to the 60-yard shot. But my stance is still pretty narrow, okay? And all I'm trying to do is let the speed build in my golf swing. I'm not trying to help it, all right? Maintaining good posture, okay? Good space between the ball, okay? Maybe my stance, maybe I drop the ball back, maybe a ball and a half in my stance to drive the ball a little more. I've got more green to work with, okay? Maybe I take it to 9 o'clock and let the club fall. I am not forcing it. I am just letting the club do the work. And that's the wonderful thing about this C3i wedge, is that you don't have to worry about hitting it fat. And if you don't have to worry about hitting it fat, you don't have to worry about hitting it thin, because one eliminates the other. So again, set up, good posture, arms hang naturally, soft grip pressure, no tension in the arms, no tension in the shoulders. Up to 9 o'clock. Okay, I could give it a little bit more. Was a little soft on that one. All you're trying to do is mimic your full golf swing in a miniature fashion. Same footwork too, same footwork principles apply. You know, if you take it back, you want to get it on the instep. You don't want to get outside your right foot, which looks like this. You don't want to get out here on your right foot, because then you got to make an extra move back. You want to stay centered, turn your body slightly into that instep, and then let your hips move through to the target, okay? Just like you would in your full golf swing. Only this is a miniaturized version. So I'm not forcing it. I'm not trying to do anything out of the norm. All I'm doing is maintaining my posture and moving my body around my head. Moving my body around my head. I think the head's a key thing in this shot. You don't want a lot of movement in the head. You don't want a lot of movement when you're ball striking in your head when you're ball striking a lot anyways. Now the head's gonna move a little bit obviously, but there's no excessive movement. There's no swaying off the ball. I mean, the head stays right there, and then you just swing around the head. The head controls everything. You dive, you're gonna change the radius of your golf swing, which means you're gonna shorten it or lengthen the radius, or have to do that just because you've changed your position from the ball, okay? So if you keep your head still, or as still as you possibly can, and maintain your levels, this shot is not a hard shot. Hands ahead, don't let them go back. Hands at the ball to ahead of the ball. So this one, now this one I've talked to you about in pitching where I want you to finish here. This one I don't care if you give it a little release because this is a fuller shot. So if you release and then that club head's out here 90 degrees through the finish, that's fine. I've got no problem with that. It depends on the shot you're playing. If the shot that I'm playing here is just a standard one, the club head's gonna release a little bit more, not a big deal, okay? All right, now let's go to the 60-yard shot. So now the 60-yard shot, one little thing might change. Again, I don't think you're not gonna change your ball position you're only changing your ball position, literally a ball. You're going further back from where you were on the 40-yard shot because you needed more height for the 40-yard shot because you didn't have a lot of green to work with. And this shot changes based on how much green you have to work with, obviously. If you got more green, you can play it lower. You might not even be able to have to play a 59 or a 60-degree wedge. You might be able to, or a 65-degree wedge. If you're using the C3i 65 degree, you could use a 56 or a 55 or a 54 degree if you've got more green to work with. Land it short and run it up. So again, you got to read the situation and understand what you have to work with. With the 60-yard shot, the only thing that I would change with you guys, widen your stance just a little bit. Give yourself a little bit wider base. Because as the swing lengthens to get that distance that you need, you're gonna need the stability in your stance. You're gonna need the stability to move through the ball. So you're not wobbling all over the place or getting on your toes. So widen your stance maybe a half a foot. So go from here to maybe here. And make sure that you have the stability to get through the ball with a bigger swing, okay? And again, 60 yards, think about it on your clock. Think about it on your clock. So if 50 yards is at 9 o'clock, then 60 yards is probably 9:30, 9:45. Let's give it a shot. So we'll try to go to 9:30 or 9:45. That was perfect if I had any spin on it. Good contact, clean, crisp, nice divot. Staying shallow is key with these shots. You want to maintain your width through the shot, maintain that radius. A consistent radius. There we go. These greens are firm and the balls aren't spinning as much. So I've got to land them a little shorter. Usually when you've got real firm turf, real tight turf, with a good tour ball from 60 yards, I should be able to land this ball about 5 paces short on the fly at the least 5 paces short, maybe even 3 paces short with the right trajectory, and that thing should come in, take one hop, stop, and if you really nip it right, it might even come back a little bit. But it's okay to send it up there with some release on it too, if that's the type of ball you play and those are the type of conditions you play in. Just got to understand what your ball does. Okay, so here we go. A little wider stance. We'll go to 9 o'clock, 9:30, and let the club fall. I'm not trying to create the speed, I'm letting the speed happen. So what I want you guys to understand when you're doing, when you're working on your 40, 50, 60 yard shots is the length of the swing. So take a good look at how long the swings are. This is a 40-yard swing, okay? 40-yard swing is going to look like this. A little narrower stance, okay? That's a 40-yard swing, okay? Almost to arm to parallel, which would be 9 o'clock, but not quite, okay? This is going to be a 50-yard swing. Okay? Again, that arm got to parallel that time. And then you're gonna have the 60-yard swing. And then from there, ball goes a little further back in my stance, maybe one ball. Stance widens out a bit. I'm still 60-40 with the weight. Okay. And now I take it back a little bit past 9 o'clock. There's your 40, 50, and 60-yard swings. Work on those. Remember, same thing you do in your full swing, you do in your 40, 50, 60-yard swings. Make sure the stance is open and make sure you use the clock. The clock is going to help you guys big time in determining how far each ball goes.